Bienvenida a nuestra querida comunidad de América Latina y de habla hispana. Hoy estamos aquí nuevamente en una edición de Connection Next, la miniserie PropTech que hemos dado a llamar de esta manera porque estaremos entrevistando a líderes regionales y a influencers globales que tienen que ver y que están trabajando en la tecnología y la innovación para la industria inmobiliaria y la construcción. Para aquellos que no me conocen, me presento, mi nombre es Andrea Rodríguez Valdés, soy founder de PropTech Latam Summit, una serie de eventos que hemos hecho a lo largo del año pasado y que hoy estamos migrando toda nuestra actividad a lo online en PropTech Latam Connection. Pueden seguirnos allí en esta plataforma, proptechlatamconnection.com, donde van a encontrar mucha información del mercado de América Latina en español, información del mundo también en español, papers para seguir aprendiendo cada día más de qué se trata el PropTech. Y hoy estamos con un invitado muy especial, que de Inglaterra, el doctor Andrew Baum. Él es el profesor de Oxford, profesor de Practica de Säid Business School de la Universidad de OXFORD. Es un docente y un speaker muy convocado en todo el mundo, y además es el autor del libro PropTech 3.0, el futuro del Real Estate, un libro que ha escrito hace 3 años atrás, pero que hoy por hoy sigue siendo el libro de cabecera para todos aquellos que quieren saber del PropTech. Es decir, que sin duda hoy van a escuchar realmente a una de las personas más influyentes del mundo hablando de PropTech y de Fintech. Welcome, Profesor Baum.
Hi, Andrea. It's great to be here, and thank you for inviting me onto your podcast.
Thanks for accept our invitation. I was thinking that we have been meet 1 year ago in our PropTech Latam Summit in Chile.
Yeah, I remember.
It was 1 year, only 1 year, but a totally different world right now.
Yeah, it was.
No?
It was a great event, and I very much hope we get back to that world again by next year at the latest. And I'm pretty sure we will. I'm pretty confident that the world will go back to pretty much the way it was before. Although, of course, the way it was before was a world of change.
Yeah, totally different. But well, it's our new reality. So some part of our audience, Andrew, already knows you, but for those who don't know you and your activity, can you explain us more what is the activity at the Real Estate Initiative there in Oxford and the Säid School, please?
Sure. So first of all, I apologize that I can't speak to you in Spanish. I can speak a little bit of French. My Spanish is really bad. So
don't worry about that.
I apologize for that. So in Britain, we have a tradition of real estate education and professionalism through something called the Royal Institution of Chartered Surveyors. So we have reasonably highly educated people working in the property market who are, unlike Latin America, they're not typically architects or engineers. They are more generally trained in everything to do with real estate, economics, valuation, legal systems, and so on. And I've been teaching those sorts of people for a very long time. But 10 years ago, I found myself teaching MBA students and executives in the business school at Oxford. And I had to think about what it was that they needed to know. And what they needed to know wasn't legal systems or valuation or economics. It was really about the future. It was really about the way in which the business, the industry will be different in 5 years' time, 10 years' time, so that they could future-proof their own careers, and in order that they could also future-proof their own businesses. So we had to find out, we had to research into this issue to have some material which was credible in these classes. So we set about raising capital for a research initiative. We found 10 companies to pay for this over a period of 4 years. We recruited a team of researchers, including a couple of data scientists. And we've been working now for 2 years producing material on the future of real estate as a research group.
A lot of people had a very expensive education in the 2000s, and in terms of when the market crashed, that people didn't get out of property when they probably could have. Say the name of the game in this decade is to make sure one doesn't make that mistake, where it happened before.
The market never stands still. It's constantly evolving, and if you expect it to stay the same, well, it won't. And I think that's one of the fascinating things about our industry, is that it's continuously evolving, and the big opportunity for people is to embrace that.
When one thinks about best practice, one thinks about academic institutions like Oxford as being really a gathering place for people to exchange best practice ideas. I think that's one of the things that's so exciting about the executive courses that are being run here, is that it's a safe place to exchange these kind of new ideas.
The beauty of this course is you're surrounded with people from all over different areas of property, whether it's development, whether it's investment side. It was to get that sort of overall picture. And I think that's a good thing about this course, because it really is intended for everyone. It's not for a certain niche area. It's great to sort of see how other people in the property market work, so you can see that interaction, how it all falls into place.
One of the most important parts of the course as well that I didn't really think about before I came was the depth and breadth of the attendees, and there are people from all over the world in all different sectors here, so building up a network of contacts is really, really good.
I think everyone who's in the industry and wants to get a global perspective, they should come. If they are looking for connections in the industry, they should come. If they are looking to propel their idea, they should come. It's a great place to pump up your career in real estate.
Okay, so the first, let me just say first of all that it's easy to think that sitting in Latin America that you're behind the rest of the world and everything is fast everywhere else and slow where you are. I'd have to say that the British real estate industry is also slow. It's not a fast-moving industry. We're not using blockchain and cryptocurrencies and tokenization to trade real estate. We are still a very conservative, traditional industry.
Okay.
So the first report that came out was called PropTech 3.0, the future of real estate. And the idea was that PropTech 1.0 was the dot-com boom of 1999 and 2000, which created some PropTech businesses. And I was part of this. I created a couple of PropTech businesses in 1999. They didn't succeed particularly well. There are very few businesses that have survived from that period, but an example would be CoStar, which is a very, very big multi-billion-dollar value business now based in the USA, which collects real estate data. So that was created in that first dot-com or that PropTech 1.0 phase. Then everything was forgotten about. Technology didn't become the big thing in the early 2000s. It was all about money, financialization, leverage, cross-border investing, private equity, and so by 2007, when the crisis came along, people had forgotten about tech, but the iPhone had been invented, and in 2008 we had PropTech 2.0. So PropTech 2.0 is the post-financial crisis wave of innovation that was prompted partly by the iPhone App Store, which was launched in 2008. It was partly to do with millennials losing faith in the traditional financial system and thinking that they could transact directly together through applications like phone apps and websites. And it was partly to do with just the general feeling of hippiness. 2008 was the first year in which the world became more urban than rural. We had a new excitement, I think, about what the city was there for, and this idea that young people want to be together to learn from each other. So I think we got all of that happening, and that created PropTech 2.0. In 2017, I called my book PropTech 3.0 as a prediction of the next wave, and it was based around blockchain. So the idea was that the next PropTech wave is sometime in the future, let's say 5 years away, and it will be based upon data digitalization, and probably blockchain. So that was the idea of 3.0. We've just revised that report. We've now called it PropTech 2020, the future of real estate. So 2020 means perfect vision. You know, do you have perfect vision of the future? And I suspect it may still be about blockchain and data, but it's definitely about digitalization.
Okay, right. Yes, I would like to talk a bit more about the new report, PropTech 2020. We are taking, for the audience, we are taking this report and put it in Spanish for our audience, chapter by chapter, okay? Because this is very qualified information and we want to share this with audience. But what is the focus of this new report?
It's largely it's a revision of the 2017 report, but it focuses on the standard drivers of innovation in the real estate market. And we think there are 5 of those. So the first one is simple data digitalization. It's the engineering, what we call the nuts and bolts, the sort of the basics. And data digitalization is the first driver. The second driver is smart buildings. So it comes from construction technology. It's about how to build buildings that are efficient, that work well, that are sustainable, energy efficient, and provide well-being and productive environments for people. That's very closely associated with the third driver, which is the shared economy driver, which is how do you use technology to maximize the efficient use of space. So co-working space is an example of the shared economy in real estate. Airbnb is an example. You know, how can we maximize the efficient use of rooms? And, you know, we have this graphic that I like to use, which is that in the world, there are billions of rooms. In the world, there are billions of people. And much of our activity is trying to connect billions of people with billions of rooms. And applications, technology applications are a true revolution in enabling that to happen. So Airbnb is the example, and it's worth a lot of money because it's solved that riddle. So you can do that for every piece of real estate there is, retail, office, everything. So the fourth driver of the book is to do with fintech, real estate fintech. So we talk about tokenization, the use of blockchain in transactions, crowdfunding, debt peer-to-peer lending, and so on. So that's the fourth driver. And then the fifth and final driver, which is probably a long way away, is smart cities and how we use technology to make cities work. And I have to say that's a sort of an overhyped area. There is a big problem in creating smart cities, which we can talk about later maybe.
To have the opportunity at an interesting time post-global financial crisis to put together an executive education program in the business school at the University of Oxford, where there is already very interesting research going on in demographics, economics, cities, private equity, we have a tremendous opportunity to put something together pretty special, which is what we're planning to do. If I were a delegate on this program, there are 3 things that I'll take out of it. The first thing is that I will be made aware of global best practice in the worlds of investment, finance and development in real estate and what is going on in occupier markets. So to be exposed to world-class professionals who are both at the front of the class and in the class, and to be able to learn from them about what is going on at the very highest ends of the real estate market, I think is a first carry out. The second thing will be the ability to develop their strategic thinking in the context of real estate, working in groups with other people of similar capabilities, to develop propositions for real estate businesses that they will be able to present in front of the group and develop their own strategic and presentation and leadership skills. And then thirdly, the networking opportunity we think will be interesting, and I would be disappointed if the group that attended this programme weren't still talking to each other in 5 years' time, or even 10 years' time. None of us have the opportunity to have enough education, and the more education the better. To have the opportunity to come to Oxford for 4 days, to stand back from your day-to-day responsibilities. To think about how you contribute to the business you're working for and how you wish to see your career developing is a unique opportunity that you should do everything you possibly can to give yourself. It's a benefit that you probably deserve and somebody should support you in.
This season of our miniserie is focused on fintech. So I would like to ask you, you are an expert on fintech. How is the fintech related to PropTech? What are the biggest contact points of these two industries?
There are always three possible applications of technology. One is simply information sharing. The second one is transactions. And the third one is management control. So fintech is focused on the first two. So the earliest fintech applications are simply about information sharing. So if you think about directories of cars for sale, for example, in Buenos Aires, originally they would have been print directories. So you buy a book which has got a list of all the cars that are for sale in Buenos Aires. Eventually that goes online. It's a much better format. It's live, it's online, it's cheaper. So that's the first application of fintech, to create an online information sharing platform for people to at least understand what's happening. We see that first usually in house sales. So you see that the world changes from estate agents with shop windows to websites with listings, and they are simply there to provide information. You still go back to the estate agent, the broker, to buy the house. So that's the first wave of fintech, and that's applied in real estate fintech in exactly the same way. So the house sale portals, websites that gather information about commercial property transactions. Then the second sort of application of fintech is to facilitate or even conclude transactions. So that best examples there, I suppose, are Amazon, which you could say is a fintech business, which is a transaction platform. PayPal, which is a more pure play financial business, which is facilitating transactions. Then online banking, so that as the world has moved from physical bank branches to telephone banking and then to online banking, these movements that facilitate transactions inevitably make younger people think, well, why don't we use technology, fintech, to, number one, share information about the built environment, buildings, and number two, more importantly, transact. And that leads to a whole new set of possibilities about how buildings could become more liquid, how transactions could become digital, how transactions could become cheaper, faster. And I think that's that really lies at the root of real estate fintech, is this idea about speeding up transactions and making the world a more democratic place as a result.
Talking about tokenization, do you tell something, but I want to know what is the place of the tokenization on the property market. This is explain a bit more, please, to our audience. Is this a universal methodology or what it is?
Okay. The first thing to say is that there is no consensus about whether this is a good thing, whether it will happen or not. So I would say there's an equal part of my brain which is telling me this will never happen, as the same part of my brain saying that this is a very exciting, interesting idea. So this comes from the first thing to talk about is fractionalization. So real estate has got two problems as an asset class, maybe three or four problems, but two of them are, number one, that the real estate asset is illiquid. It's very difficult to buy and sell quickly. And the second problem is that it's lumpy. Buildings are big. If you want to buy an office building, you will pay a lot of money for something that is extremely large. So that the idea of fractionalization is to split buildings into smaller pieces, and those smaller pieces would become more liquid and they would become easier for people to invest in. And that can be It could be shares of houses, it could be shares of investments in office buildings, whatever. So there are a lot of people out there who think this would be, number one, a good thing, number two, profitable, and number three, possible. So this idea of tokenization is splitting buildings into smaller pieces, making them liquid through transaction marketplaces like that are fintech enabled, and creating an online phone app that means you can go online and buy a share in a building in Lima instantaneously for a small amount of money. And the reason for it is because the traditional real estate investment world is appallingly awful to transact with. It's incredibly difficult to know how to put your money into a building. Okay, and this is a universal problem, right? Yeah, it's an absolutely universal problem. We have a slightly old-fashioned way of doing this called crowdfunding. So crowdfunding is a fintech application. Crowdfunding is a sort of an early form of real estate fractionalization. I wouldn't say it's been incredibly successful. It's been okay, but it's not been incredibly successful. To make the world incredibly efficient, you would be able to split buildings into small pieces, trade them instantaneously, and you would do that. So the primary market, the capital raising process would be digital, and the secondary market would be digital as well. There is an association of tokenization and cryptocurrencies. So not always for good reasons. I think there have been some discussions about tokenizing using cryptocurrency. That may be a good thing, it may not be a bad thing. I have no view, but the pure tokenization movement is to basically make the real estate asset more liquid. Blockchain is massively overrated as an issue. It's a way away before it becomes significant and important to real estate people. The first thing to say, I think, is that it's connected very strongly with what I was just talking about. So the tokenization and PropCoin area relies upon blockchain. So Bitcoin is a technology, or it's a cryptocurrency that is based on blockchain technology. And the fundamental point is that the ownership of a Bitcoin is tracked through a digital system, a registration system called a blockchain. And the point about a blockchain is that it's distributed, so it's not held by a central bank or by any one business. It's held by everybody that owns a Bitcoin. So that the whole system is connected. A Bitcoin trade is communicated across the whole system, and it's only legitimized if the system accepts the trade. So using blockchain to underpin tokenization of buildings is natural, because if you split buildings into small pieces, you've got to create a register of ownership of those small pieces. Blockchain digital systems are going to be the most efficient way of doing that. And if there's any suggestion that you connect the token in a building with a PropCoin or a Bitcoin or a digital currency, a cryptocurrency, then inevitably you're going to be talking about the blockchain as the way of recording the ownership of this asset. But all of that, I think, is a long way away. It's I'm not convinced that we need tokenization. I'm not convinced that we will ever see cryptocurrency-backed property funds. And tokenization backed by blockchain may be a long way away. But where blockchain could become really useful is to do with the use of buildings rather than the trading of buildings. So that the best example I've heard that is really understandable is a group of 10 farmers in Australia who needed to buy a tractor. It made no sense for them all to buy a tractor. It made much more sense for them to share in the purchase of a tractor. So imagine a system where digitally the use of the tractor is logged automatically. So every time farmer A sits in the cab, the use of the cab is logged to him, and the money is taken out of his account and transferred to the other 9 farmers. So that at the end of every quarter, there's a reconciliation and there's this automatic transfer of the right to use the tractor and the money that is used to buy the tractor. What I see is buildings being used in a way that is through a token. So the token will be a building card, a building pass that we already see. We already have these things. They give us entry to the building. They give us the right to buy coffee. We buy food from the building. We hire a meeting room. We turn the air conditioning up. And when we do that, the system automatically logs a charge against our card. And that would be a blockchain enabled distributed system of financial reconciliation. So I can see that happening, and that's not far away, because we're now moving to a world where we need to make buildings more attractive to people, where they are charged for the use of the building, not for the space that they occupy. And that's one of the results of the COVID crisis we're going to see, I think.
Yeah, and what countries are more using the blockchain? What countries are more interested in use the blockchain, or where it's more on development?
I think it's split. It's split into two things. So you've got developing countries that are talking about using blockchain for capital transactions and for land registration. So Honduras, for example, has claimed to be investing in blockchain to try to create a legitimate land registry system in a country that is difficult. So I think you have this movement to create legitimacy through distributed data outside a system that doesn't work very well, an official system that doesn't work well. And then in the developed world, in the US, UK, Australia, Sweden, these countries I think are working on. I think blockchain is going to be used more to do with the utility. So let me just explain. Tokenization, we can have what we call security tokens, which represent ownership of something, and we can have utility tokens, which represent the use of something. So I think the Western world is developing utility tokens, which will become more useful because they rely on very rapid transactions, large numbers of transactions. So it makes it worthwhile investing in the technology because there are lots of transactions that follow. Every time I go into the building, that's a transaction. Every time I buy a coffee, that's a transaction. So that justifies the capital investment in the technology.
The PropTech is still young here in Latin America, you know that. But looking at your experience and your overview for over the world, what recommendations could you give to the young companies or to the startups or in general with the real estate companies here in Latin America?
Okay. I've got three recommendations actually. So the first one is, let me write them down before I forget them. Okay. So the first one is to collaborate regionally. It's very dangerous to try to create the Argentinian system or the Uruguayan system or the Chilean system when we know that it's the same technology, it's the same concepts, and collaboration across borders is always a good idea. And this goes back to, I did some work in Finland quite a long time ago, and the question for the Finnish property market was, how do we make Finland attractive to foreign investors? And the answer was, be part of the Nordic bloc, because as part of the Nordic bloc, the money will spend its time researching Sweden, Norway, Denmark, Finland, and you will then get a share of that investment money. It's the same thing about Latin America. It works as a block. I know it's difficult, and I know that there are some differences, there are some language differences, but you're pretty lucky, really. It's one language mainly, apart from Brazil. It's physically difficult, but we don't need physical barriers anymore. They're surmountable. So you are overcoming this with your business. So collaboration across different countries, because we in English we have this phrase: "There's nothing new under the sun." What you're creating is also being created somewhere else, and if you collaborate, you'll get there faster. So that's the first thing. The second thing is that technologists need to work with real estate people, and real estate people need to work with technologists. both sides they find it difficult, you know, because the real estate people tend to be older, more traditional, more conservative, and yet they know that something's happening. The tech people know that something's going on and they can move very quickly, and they don't want to be held back by the slow-moving real estate guys who are older than them and possibly a little bit arrogant about what they have to offer. And what both sides need to know is that they have a lot to learn from each other. And the tech guys badly need to understand the real estate market and how it really works. And the real estate guys really need to think about how innovation will help them build better businesses. So collaborate, business and tech. And then the third thing is to continue to learn. You know, you never stop learning, and the world is a really rich place right now in terms of education. And you know, companies like yours, Andrea, what we do at Oxford, you know, I think what we're doing is very important in technology transfer, communication, and there is no limit to the amount of knowledge that we need. And I don't expect to stop learning. Just because my hair is falling out doesn't mean I'm going to stop learning, I hope.
Yeah, well, that's our idea with the new PropTech platform that I mentioned, to bring education, to bring important information, value content from all over the world here to Latin America, to learn. Learn is the beginning of everything. Well, Andrew, thank you very much. It was always a pleasure to talk with you. Thanks for your time, for accept our invitation, and I hope to see you soon.
I hope to see you again in Buenos Aires, hopefully. Thank you very much indeed, and good luck to everybody on the call. Thank you.
I hope. Thanks to you. Muchas gracias a toda nuestra comunidad de América Latina y hispanoparlante por habernos acompañado hoy nuevamente. No se olviden de seguirnos en PropTech Latam Connection y en nuestras redes sociales PropTech Latam. Y nos vemos la semana que viene, continuando con una nueva temporada de PropTech Connection Next, nuestra miniserie. Gracias.